Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Welcome to Game Over Montreal. We're doing it again. We're doing it live. The last one didn't so much work for some reason that I don't know. It was really choppy on the stream. So we're just going to start over. Clean, fresh. This one looks like it's pretty solid. It should be good. We lowered the settings a little bit, even though my internet should be able to handle it perfectly. But hey, your Montreal Canadiens just pulled off a very impressive win against the New York Rangers on the second half of a back-to-back. The goaltending on both sides was spectacular. The chances on both sides were excellent. I watched the game with a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old playing and fighting and making sure that I was playing with them the whole time. So Marc Dumont, my co-host, is going to come in and he's going to lead the conversation tonight with our guest, Andrew Cohen from the Marshall Project. Before we bring those guys in, of course, we got to tell you about Sports Interaction. Think you know which way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets, like the Caufield over under 50 goals bet. Looking pretty good after another strike tonight for Mr. Cole. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. All right, everyone. I'm going to welcome in our guests now, and hopefully the stream won't crap out on us this time. It's Marc Dumont and Andrew Cohen. How are you guys?
We're good.
Look at that to you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Good. It's good to be back. It seems like only 6 minutes ago I was on the show, so it's nice to have me back.
I've missed
Seriously.
everybody. How cool is it that people actually will wait for us and then jump back into the stream?
Well, we've lowered their expectations now, so there's only it's all going to be gravy now.
No, we've heightened it. You thought the conversation was good last time when you could barely hear it. It's going to be even better this time.
Right, exactly.
This time I won't be panicking the entire time, trying to figure out what the heck is going on with OBS.
But and before we get started, I wanted a quick word to speak about. There was actually a former member of the Montreal Canadiens just passed away. So
That's right.
Much love and thoughts and prayers to Gino Odjick's family, because Gino Odjick was, like, you talk, people, Habs fans now love Armia Jacki, what he does, what he defends. Gino Odjick would put him to shame how much he defended his teammates. So he was just the best teammate. He would make Chris Nyland seem like an altar boy out there. So, thoughts and prayers with for Gino Odjick and his family since they just passed. But hey, that was a great game. And while I'm going to take over a little bit of the hosting, just because I had a better chance to watch the game, tonight we're going to talk about Caufield just being ridiculous, back on that 49 goal pace, so well ahead of Austin Matthews. And we're also going to talk about the Slavkovsky injury, where he's playing on the fourth line, and Kirby Dach. He seems to be kind of the answer to all the issues the Canadiens have, because they need a good center, they need guys that are good in transition, and they need guys that can open up space, and that's what Kirby Dach does. And finally, I think we need to talk about Samuel Montembeault. He made over a dozen high danger saves, and he's been a very important part of this team this year, and probably a guy that we underrated. So before we'll get going, we'll start with it. What's your opinion, Andrew? Better Andrew, not host Andrew. What's your opinion on
Andrew? Just say old Andrew, young Andrew. How about that? That's
fair enough. Okay. Better book collection, Andrew. What's your opinion on Kirby Dach so far? Because I know you wanted the Habs to tank, but that's been such a home run trade by Jeff Gordon and Ken Hughes, which is kind of funny because Gordon was facing his former team there, but what a trade for Kirby Dach.
Yeah, it's an excellent trade. I still want them to tank. My idea of a great Habs game is a really highly competitive loss, like last night. So yeah. I haven't changed on that, but yeah, it's great to see him flying around Kirby Dach like he did tonight in that game. The offense, the defense, the back checking, the forechecking, smoothness. We already mentioned it. To me, he looks like Pete Mahovlich when he plays like that.
Love that.
Now he has to play like that consistently or more consistently. But the idea that you have this big rangy center that you can pop in and he can be successful as a center and also play the wing is precisely the type of player the Canadiens need more of. They don't have enough of. And so, yeah, it's really exciting to see him playing like this. Especially when you consider that in 2 or 3 years, he's going to have a lot more to work with. And so a lot more talent around him. But the speed and the transitions and everything, great to see him play that way on the second night of a back-to-back.
I gotta say with Dach, like every time I see him shoot and score, I'm like, gotta shoot a little bit more, buddy. The guy has a shot.
Him and
Slavkovsky he only shoots.
To trust their shots.
They do, and there are times where Dach, especially, I think Dadonov as well, is like a little bit too unselfish, trying to set up teammates because that's what's worked for him lately. Yeah. But Dach, he seems to only want to shoot when he gets a cross ice or a cross crease pass. Which, listen, I get it. Everybody loves to be Alex Tanguay once in a while, but his shot's too good to only have the best possible shot, right? Just throw one on net once in a while.
But that goal was great just because you saw the transition and you saw the puck. So 3 passes in the offensive zone, get the goalie moving. That was perfect. But I want to go back to what Flannel Andrew said. And when we're talking about the little M here, when we're talking about the Mahavalish brothers, obviously, Frank was a little different, but Pete, the way he transitioned into the offensive zone, one of his greatest strengths for the Habs was that he created ice, created open passing lanes, and he got the puck quickly into the offensive zone with control. And to me, that's what Kirby Dach is doing consistently. And when you remove him from that first line, you're really opening up the possibilities. As long as that top line does good, and we'll hit on that. They did do good, but just the way he changes the entire dynamic of the game is really impressive. And we saw it tonight, opening up passing lanes and quickly with control of the puck, which is something the Canadiens don't do very often, getting into the offensive zone.
Yeah, Kirby Dach gave them tonight what Monahan was giving them, right? Early in the season.
Exactly. Yes.
And I mean, that's exactly why they were successful tonight. And if he can do it consistently, it'll make the loss of Monahan, the looming, I hope, loss of Monahan, easier to take. But yeah, right. A second center, a big guy, transition.
21 years old.
21 years old. And again, the effort I liked. I like the effort. We talked about it before. I like the effort of a lot of the players tonight.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see in an afternoon game following a night game on the road at Madison Square Garden. It's a really good team.
Yeah. And it's not just because we talked about Dadonov, but I thought Dvorak actually, I mean, he's got a penchant for hitting the crest, right down the middle of the crest. But I think Dvorak's actually is probably in his better stretch right now. And Jonathan Drouin also looked pretty good. So it's fun to see the depth veteran guys, kind of take some of that pressure off of Caufield and Suzuki, because I don't know how you both feel about this. I feel like Suzuki was really putting a lot of that slump and actually the team slump on his own shoulders. It was almost reaching Pacioretty levels of like he was blaming himself. So it's great to see the tertiary. I don't think they have secondary offense at all, but tertiary offense kick in a little bit for the Canadiens.
Yeah, it is nice. And I think that you hit the nail on the head that you both did, that Dach playing the Monahan role has also allowed a little bit more room to Christian Dvorak, right?
Yeah.
And that whole situation, I think we also have to give a little bit of flowers to Yoel Armia, because this is the first time essentially this whole season since like the very beginning when Caufield and Suzuki were just scoring like crazy and getting killed in the underlying numbers, that the top line looked good without Kirby Dach.
Yeah.
And Yoel Armia was very strong tonight, as he has been. Yeah, until Trouba elbowed him in the hip there, but
that was like a flying elbow. Like
I don't understand how he gets away with that stuff. But anyway, like my point
Irish
is that
French
like
brothers, and we did stuff like that. I'd get suspended in real life for stuff like that.
But like my point is, Armia has continued his strong play now that Evans is out.
Exactly.
Worried that maybe that would fall off. He's played really well with that top line, just playing that support role where he does all the little things to help them get more offense. That has also allowed Dach to score on the second line, or I guess it was on the power play, but still Dach got his goal. Not necessarily
they were playing well
from
5-on-5
Caufield
on the second line though. They were creating chances. Yeah,
they were.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, real quick from the chat, because I'm so happy to see people back in the chat, that because when we tried a different format, and I kept looking at the chat, looking for our community, the awesome people. So I want to thank everyone for coming back. Real quick, yes, Claire mentions, I hope Slavkovsky isn't injured. I didn't actually see what happened. So can anyone inform me about what happened there?
They showed a wide angle shot at the end, right at the end of the game, where they thought that he had gotten injured. He sort of limped off on the left side. And the analyst didn't want to speculate on whether it was lower or upper, but it was definitely lefter.
Eastern Hemisphere.
Yeah, he sort of limped off, and he didn't. So he missed about half the third period, I think, or maybe a little bit more than half the third period, and that was why probably Anderson was up on the first line, and they were sort of trading off at the end.
Well, speaking of that, are you worried, Andrew, when you see Slavkovsky? I thought, I actually got quite critical of Slavkovsky because until about 3 games ago, he was having a really hard time. He wasn't creating any chances. He wasn't taking shots. I thought in the last 3 games, I thought Slavkovsky's been actually quite good, getting good chances. Today, he started right off the bat with 2 high danger chances. Yeah. Are you worried when you see him get slotted back on the 4th line like that? Or is it more of can we be honest, Martin Saint-Louis doesn't have 4 lines. He has 1 line and a bunch of others that he kind of works with. So does that worry you, Andrew, when you see him back on the 4th after a nice stretch of games?
Andrew, me or Andrew, older Andrew or younger Andrew?
The Andrew with the nicer lamps.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I was also glad to see him out after he took the back-to-back penalties, right? Because he took the 1 penalty that they killed off really well, and then they so it was nice to see him back out at. He's 18. At this point, you're looking for effort, right? And you're looking for him to come back from mistakes, and he did that. To me, the games like this are a reminder not so much of the forwards that are young, but the defense, right? I mean, the fact that you go in there and you still have these 3 young kids on defense that are playing really well.
It's mind blowing, eh? We often forget that these guys have almost no experience.
Yeah. And you have others coming, but I mean Harris's game I thought tonight was good. I mean I don't mean to transition to go around, but
transition all you want. We'll follow you.
The young stuff, like we talked about Dach, we talked about Slavkovsky, but to me that you can go into Madison Square Garden and sure Montembeault had a great game, but you see like competent defense, and there have been times in the recent past and the mid recent past where you didn't see that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Matheson coming back, right? Because he's now practicing with full contact. Yeah. So I would not be surprised if he's back Tuesday or Thursday. And if that's the case, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Because
although, I mean, I have to give credit because I think we've been pretty harsh on Edmondson and David Savard. They've been pretty good together, actually. I don't know, Andrew Moorhair. What do you think about about Savard and Edmondson lately? Like I know Edmondson has a really hard time getting out of his zone with the control of the puck, but their underlying numbers have been pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, Savard, going back to when he played with Matheson, his underlying numbers have been pretty strong, right? They actually weren't tonight. I don't think. I think him and Harris kind of got the top matchup and got beat up a little bit. But, Savard is a savvy veteran. That pass that he made today, which I know it didn't produce a goal, but oh my God, putting that through the middle of the ice. Sometimes he just shocks you with his vision, right? And his ability he has that one move at the blue line that everybody falls for every time.
Slowest Savardian spinorama.
It's so funny.
It's like a slow-a-rama. It's a slow-a-rama. It's amazing. But you can't stop it. It's like a tidal wave. You just can't stop it. You know it's coming. You have time to prepare. You can't stop it.
It's like, even if you've seen it 100 times, you never believe that body shape is going to pull that off, happen. Right? It's like if I started skating like Paul Correa, it's not going to happen, but if it happened, you'd never believe it. And Edmondson, I said on the show last night that I re-recorded after ours got eaten alive there, Mark. I think as much as Edmondson has been terrible this year, we know that this is not normal Joel Edmondson, right? Like, even though Jeff Petrie was very clearly carrying him in a lot of ways the last couple of years, we knew a few things about Edmondson going into that. We knew that Petrie and Sherratt didn't work out that way because when they tried them together, Sherratt couldn't make quick decisions. Edmondson made smart decisions consistently with Jeff Petrie. He was trusted with the puck on his stick to either defer to his partner at the right point or make a quick play and make quick decisions, good decisions for the most part while he was with Petrie. We're not seeing that so far this year. I know that he's played a little bit better lately, but overall, with the puck on his stick, he's probably the defenseman I trust the least right now. I think there's something up, whether it's just struggling to come back from injury or, the stuff that he's dealt with in his personal life over the last year. It's been tough.
With his father,
yeah, exactly, right? Like, there's a lot of evidence to me to say we should give him a bit of a break, and I'm guessing that a lot of GMs around the league are feeling the same way, and a fresh start on a team that has something to play for, where he's a guy instead of the guy, could put him in a really good situation.
Yeah, that's the point, right? If he plays 4-5, 3-4-5 in that range, and he's not being asked to be the king like he is here, especially with Matheson out. I mean, I'm hoping that he is gone. That they can make a trade for him,
He will be gone. I guarantee it.
Yeah, right. I mean, it just makes too much sense. And there are too many teams apart from Edmonton that everybody keeps talking about. There are too many teams that are going to want somebody like him and who remember him from that Stanley Cup run, and know that he's going to be able to give them that. Yeah, and it might not be a first, and it might not be a big fancy package. It might be a first from last year or from the year before,
or it might be 2024. But I'm going to say right now, Andrew, it will be a first. That's what I'm hearing, okay. And this is from guys from like Pierre Lebrun, but they're talking about the Canadiens will probably have to retain a little bit of salary. However, there's a whole bunch of teams next year that have no defensemen signed, and at 3.5. Yeah, Washington, exactly. Right. At 3.5, you can kind of make him one of your more reliable players. Obviously, during the regular season, it's a slog, but I think there's a ton of value to Joel Edmondson in the playoffs, where he can go full Shea Weber with like 7 cross checks to the ribs for every single whistle.
You get him for 2 playoffs if you deal for him now.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a war of attrition in the playoffs, and I think that's where Edmondson comes into play. And I want to mention this because someone in the chat was talking about Caden Goalie. It was Trinka, born in 83. That's a good year. So when I was at the red and white game, so it's kind of like the Canadian scrimmage before the start of the season, I was just chatting with Caden Goalie, just seeing how he was doing. He wasn't in the game and whatnot. And he mentioned to me, he said, Joel Edmondson, he hasn't just been like a mentor really to me. He's been just kind of like a cooler, older brother that's just like, hey, man, this is what we're going to do. He doesn't force himself to be the mentor, but he provides that stability to the point that he's just a really nice guy. So I don't actually see him as like a mentor, but I see him as like the cooler uncle with these young guys. And Caden was saying like, this guy makes me feel so comfortable and he brings my confidence way, way high. And I know we're jumping into the intangibles and I'm someone that kind of laughed at that, but there is a lot of value to having a guy that you can rely on to guide these people, but not necessarily tell them what to do, but just be there when things go wrong. And that's what happens with Joel Edmondson.
Well, and 100%. Remember, a season is long, and these guys now, Harris and Goalie, they're in their rookie season, but now what they have 50 games under their belts, right? Or whatever, 60 or whatever. And it's a different feel. It's got to be. It should be if they're progressing the way you want them to progress.
It takes several years for your body to actually get used to the grind of a season. It was Caufield was saying, Suzuki was saying it took him about 3-4 years and he's still kind of feeling it down the stretch. So yeah, stuff like that. And he really just seems like a cool dude in the sense that, when you say, hey, I'm moving in 2 weeks, and then your friends start to come up with excuses why they're busy in 2 weeks, he's the guy that shows up with packing tape at your house. And he's like, all right, let's go. We're doing it. So I will say this right now. I'm almost certain that Joel Edmondson will get a first round pick, because when you look at players that have Stanley Cup experience, I don't think there's actually there's value to having a Stanley Cup ring more than the fact that you can just say we got a Stanley Cup winner, but there's so few of them in the on the market right now. There's so few guys that are making under $4 million. And from what I'm hearing, basically the goal for the Canadiens is to not retain salary with Joel Edmondson. And that might be possible. I didn't think it was a little while ago, but that might end up being possible for the Montreal Canadiens.
Are they balking at retaining salaries both years or just this year?
It would be, I'm fairly certain, and this is just my impression, that Ken Hughes wants nothing to do with holding up salary next year. So you do a 50% retain now,
right?
Which is barely reasonable. Anything. Yeah. So I know that Ken Hughes wants to weaponize his cap space going forward, because don't forget, next year there's the flat cap. So and there's Cole Caufield signatures coming up pretty soon. So but the goal right now is to essentially not get rid of, but for guys like Dadonov too and all them, it's to not retain salary. So them playing well helps that. But that's much more of a long shot than getting a first on Joel Edmondson. I'm going to say right now, definitely the Canadiens will get a first, but it won't be a high one. I'm thinking between 20 to 30 will be, and which highway robbery.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. It's still great value.
Speaking of people that might move, I have a question for you guys. Did you guys see Drouin shadowing Panarin in that one little stretch? Drouin played really good defense. I don't know what period it was in. It was either in the first or the second period.
Yeah.
And he was just pestering Panarin.
Yeah, Jonathan Drouin led the Canadiens in shot attempt differential tonight.
And someone mentioned in the chat, he gets the Good Soldier Award because he gets thrown back into center, right?
Yeah. But the way he did it, it made me think, like, if he wants to play hockey again next year, and let's assume he does, why wouldn't he? And he wants to sort of reimagine himself to a league that's probably skeptical of paying him all that money.
You have to show.
Does he have the chops or the desire to be like a Guy Carbonneau center forward sulky type guy? Does he have any?
I don't
think he has the ability. Does he have the interest? Andrew's shaking his head.
I think
Because
he
to me,
has.
that's the only way he stays relevant.
Yeah, I think he
just because
has.
he can't produce in top 6 right now, so that kind of mitigates his value. Yeah.
Like, I don't think the issue for Drouin on defense has ever been effort. I think that he wants to be a good defensive player, but his defensive instincts are just very poor.
Okay.
And his skill set, the way it's developed, is just like, what are his weaknesses? Like, if he's playing on the wing, right? Like, because he's not going to be playing center long term. If he's playing on the wing, one of his biggest weaknesses is he's not good in board battles, right? If you can't win board battles on the wing up near the top of your zone, you're not going to be very good.
He needs to merge with Armia.
Oh my God. Put those two, put Jonathan Drouin's talent in Armia's body. Oh, that's a good player. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that the way he kind of carves himself out a career again is a fresh start and being a great power play player again. He used to be, when he was in Tampa Bay, never really figured himself out there in Montreal.
But I think he's been great on the point. Though.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, he's been really good lately. I did want to say there's a good question in the stream chat here from a while ago. Daniel Clark Bouchard says, I heard that Montreal wouldn't take Michkov if he were available. Do you believe that rumor? My assumption is that rumor is if Michkov was available and the Canadiens were picking at 3. And I think that that's not a Montreal thing. That's almost every team now.
Because there's not even a transfer agreement right now with the Russian Federation. Right.
Like, no transfer agreement. Michkov is also playing in like the 3rd tier Russian league.
He's in the VHL right now, right?
He's not playing a lot, which is weird. Like, they don't play very many games.
Well, there's also the punishment factor because they know he's intent. Sorry to interrupt, but he's intent to go to North America, and they do not like that.
Yeah, well, he signed for another 4 years there, right?
Oh yeah, okay. Because from what I heard, he was for sure coming through. Okay, I don't think they would have any issue with that, and I think there's actually an advantage here for a team like Montreal because you're adding 2 years of control on their contract, right? It's not like a Fantanelli or no, he's NCAA, so it wouldn't be like a Connor Bedell where you sign Connor. This is a terrible argument I'm coming up with, but anyways, it gives you a couple extra years to bring him over, and I don't think the Canadiens would hesitate. And I'll say this right now, I think Michkov is probably the best Russian prospect that we've seen in. I don't know how far back are we going here? Like,
but you're not gonna do your first pick with that, are you?
No,
you're gonna maybe do your Florida pick, right? Or your Washington pick that you get for what's his face, Edmondson, right? Something like that. I mean, right?
Well, I think he's gone at 4, no matter what. No matter.
You think so?
Yes, absolutely. From what I heard is his talent level is like almost rivaling when I call the big 2 when you were watching the World Juniors when you had Malkin and Ovechkin, which kind of feels exaggerated, but I'm hearing just in terms of pure talent, Michkov is right up there with some of the best first overalls in draft history. Wow.
Yeah, and especially in terms of scoring. That's the big thing, right?
Like, and the Canadiens need shooting talent. Let's be perfectly honest. Yeah. When you see Dadonov go to the net and hit the crest, also again, great moves. I think Dadonov wants to stay in the NHL too, because there's that other side of it, right? He doesn't want his career to end, but the Canadiens clearly need high-end talent, and Michkov would fit the bill. But that being said, I don't think he's going to fall in the Canadiens' range. I think unless they win the lottery and they go up to 1, 2, 3, maybe, but he'll be gone before they get to him to 6 or 7. So I don't think it'll be an issue. But what I am excited about is that Will Smith might end up in Philadelphia, and that is one of that would make me so happy. I would be very, very happy with that.
Well, we should say also that Michkov, I was just checking, is now on a loan to the KHL, playing with, I believe, Sochi. So he's back in the top league and on pace for like 10 goals in 31 games or something like that, which is great for a 17-year-old in the KHL.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. And Andrew wants the team to tank, so this is right down his alley, right?
I want the team to tank, and I'm disappointed that Hughes and Gordon haven't traded some of these guys already. I know you have to wait for the market to come up, and I know that, but if you're taking half the salary anyway, games like this are killers for people like me who
Yeah.
want to see the 11-game losing streak. Want to just
absolutely. Well,
suffer through the next 3 months.
I think that one of the main things that Ken Hughes has been trying to do has obviously he just doesn't want to retain salary. He wants to get his deal. But at one point, him being so fixated on getting his deal, which has worked out quite well, might backfire a little bit because I don't want to see Dadonov continuously sliding down Slavkovsky continuously sliding down the lineup just to maybe get a 6th-round pick for a veteran winger. So I think if I had to criticize Hughes, I think it would be his handling of the excess contracts this year.
Well, here's my theory on that. Is it possible they haven't waived a guy like Dadonov yet because they want him in the lineup because he's not doing anything, and that if they replace him in the lineup with a Ylonen or somebody, they're actually going to be better?
I don't think so, because
it's kind of like a cockeyed argument, but
I think it's really just about getting those guys going.
Management tanks, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just about getting those guys going, really. Like, you watched Dadonov the last 2 to 3 weeks.
And it's not like they had bad underlying numbers. There was value to trying it.
Yeah, 100%. And if he plays until the trade deadline the way he's playing right now, they will get something for him. It won't be like the 1st-round pick that people were dreaming about when they acquired him, but they'll get something decent. And just to stoke the fires on Matvei Michkov a little bit, his KHL numbers right now: 4 goals, 2 assists in 10 games. That's pacing him for 31 games, 10 goals, 5 assists.
And
Alex Ovechkin,
last I checked.
Hold on. Alex Ovechkin, of course, it was a totally different league back then, but when Alex Ovechkin was 17, in 40 games in the KHL, he scored 8 goals, 7 assists for 15 points. So...
And Sochi is. I thought there was talk about them closing them down because they actually went into insolvency. So I don't think Sochi has a very good team either.
Probably not.
Yeah, and it's funny here because they mentioned Pasternak. Montreal MUFC mentions that when we were at Eyes on the Prize, we would do this big. Every blog would draft a player, and when it got to the Canadiens, there was 2 guys left. There was Nikita Sherbak and Pasternak, and I was so happy. I'm like, yeah, welcome to Montreal, David Pasternak. But my main reason was that it rhymed with tabarnak. Like, that's what I really liked about it, is that you could swear and make it loud. But yeah, what a David Pasternak might end up being like a Ovechkin-esque in terms of what's happening, but you can't stop him. I don't know why I got onto Pasternak right now, and it's not a Boston thing, but man, what a good player. He's going to be a $10-12 million player in the future. Okay, Slavkovsky. Is anyone worried about the progression, how he's being used? Because I think when I read his blog on NHL.com, let's be honest, I mean, I work with the Habs. I know that Yuri Slavkovsky is not writing that blog. If I was there, I would have written it. However, he doesn't seem to be phased, but I think like Habs fans are worrying more than Slavkovsky. So Andrew with the nice paint. They both have nice paintings. Jeez. Okay, Andrew with the what do we got here? Probably nice baseboards with the Crown Royal. Andrew with the Crown Royal. What do you Crown Royal? The Crown molding. What do you think about Slavkovsky's usage this season?
I think that must be me. I think I have the Crown Royal.
Yeah.
Actually, this is not. I have actual Canadiens books. I have a lot of Canadiens books that I've collected over the years. I'm not worried about Slavkovsky. Either you trust that Martin St. Louis and the staff and Hughes that they're not going to Bergevin it, or you don't, right? And so right now, to me, they've earned the benefit of the doubt. He's 18 years old. Like I said, if the effort's there, I don't mind the mistakes. I'd like him to be a little bit more aggressive on the forecheck. I'd like him to use his body a little bit more.
And shoot.
Yeah, and shoot a little bit more. And but no, I'm not. I mean, I think when all is said and done, I think after the deadline, he's going to have a little bit more room to roam, and he's going to end up, 25 points, whatever, 30 points, somewhere around there, right? And as long as he comes through it fine, he's going to be an asset next year. And
I mean, he had 2 great chances right off the bat there, and I know some people were complaining that he didn't lift the puck. He did on that 2-on-1. He actually did. When I look at Slavkovsky. It's funny because Le Cavalier said, hey, when I was his age, I was getting 11 minutes a game. Okay, c'était pas vrai. That's wrong. That's false. I went back and I checked. Le Cavalier was getting about 15 minutes as a rookie, which, if you guys remember, he was kind of fighting with Tortorella. Wasn't it Tortorella that was the...
No. Tortorella's who took the captaincy away from him when they won the cup.
Well, he was fighting with someone that rookie year, but the next year... Le Cavalier, who had just turned 19, was up to 20 minutes a game. So I don't think we're going to see that with Slavkovsky jump up to 20 minutes a game. But as is what Connor says here, it's in our chat, he's loving it. He's out there kind of loving life and kind of just figuring out what he can do and what he can't do. And we all knew there was not going to be a game-changing presence in this draft. So the expectations have to be adjusted. And I despite him being put on the fourth line, I thought he had a really good game tonight. We're seeing high danger chances. So 5 high danger chances in the last 3 games and 8 before that, the rest of the season. That's a really good sign for Slavkovsky.
100%. And I'm not worried about Slav either. I think that you can see, especially ever since the Subban speech before that game, like 3 games in a row now, I thought Slavkovsky's been really good. His effort has been high. Like he took that to heart, what Subban had said about like, you leave it all out there every shift, these people are going to love you forever. And it's clear, like he memorized the speech when he was talking post game. So like clearly that has stuck with him, and he's such a confident individual.
Yeah. He had a better game than Lafreniere, didn't he?
Yes.
You know what? I didn't really notice Lafreniere.
Yeah, right.
That's
my point. Is that, I mean, he had a couple of chances, but I was, I try to watch as many minutes of him as I can, because like everyone else, I'd love him eventually to be with the Canadiens. But he's what, 2 years older, right? He's in his 3rd year now, right? Yeah. And you're still getting these kinds of games where you would have thought he would have been highly motivated tonight. Cole Caufield certainly was motivated to play against him based on that little tweet thing, right? Cole Caufield seemed like on fire.
I didn't see that. There was a tweet drama.
Well, somebody suggested that they would trade Caufield for Lafreniere, and Caufield liked the tweet, right?
It's Norma Flynn. I don't even have to check. It's Norma Flynn.
I don't know who it was. I don't know who it was.
I guarantee it. I guarantee
I don't know who
it
it was, and it just was silly. But he liked it, and then he unliked it. And today, firing the shot, it's just the goalie. I mean, I thought Caufield was particularly inspired tonight, and I think Lafreniere was not.
Well, yeah, and we need to talk about Caufield being great. So that's, hey, what a nice segue there, Andrew.
Thank you.
That was quality. But before we get to the end of that, we need to remember also there was a guy. What was his name? Guy something. That for his first 2 years in Montreal. Leroux, yeah, Guy Leroux. He was really good with his hands, great mechanic, not a great skater. But in his first 2 years in Montreal, people were saying, "Why didn't you go get Marcel Dion? This guy's a flop."
Yeah, so, but he was a flop and he was getting 70 points.
He was getting 30 goals.
Different era.
I remember that. I was alive, and I remember him coming, and I remember him being disappointing, and I remember them winning the Stanley Cup, in 73 also with him, right? So
exactly.
The different eras of Montreal Canadiens fandom, right? Where it's like, oh, so disappointing. We won the Stanley Cup, though.
Yeah. I mean, he won this, but it'll be interesting to see what the Rangers do with Lafreniere, and because they need right wingers, right? They need scoring wingers, and maybe they're going to get Kane, and maybe they're not going to get Kane, and if they don't get Kane, I could see Anderson being of interest to the Rangers.
Anderson's of interest to everyone. And by the way, shout out to the chat. Also, I see a few new names, which is cool too. I don't know if Habs Fan TV has jumped into one of our streams before, but shout out to the good people.
Maybe it's
there.
The Criminal Justice Network that I am a part
That's
of.
exactly it. All the district attorneys,
all my prosecutor friends and defense attorneys and policemen are watching tonight.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm bringing my audience along.
But now let's talk about Cole Caufield.
Yeah.
I feel, and the crazy thing here, and we'll go to Andrew, you need a Caufield in there because you got Dryden and Suzuki. You need a Caufield to sneak right in between there. That would be a really good one.
Maybe in the summer I'll have to redo my stream studio. There's plans, but
I want the Yanni Niinema picture, of him like looking up into I can't find it in high quality. So if anyone in the chat,
his head over top of my head, staring down at the camera.
I just want him looking at me at all times. Because Andrew, I have an Andrew Markov nameplate here, but I stay with the Niinema nameplate because it's the most important thing to me. Okay, Cole Caufield, is he just scratching the surface here? Because we're talking about a guy who, just like less than a year ago, people are saying this guy's a flop. He was in Laval. So is this a guy that's just scratching the surface, or is he going to settle into like just a 40 goal-ish pace for the rest of his career?
I was going to say, one of the things that I wanted to say coming into this show was, am I crazy for thinking over the last couple of weeks he's taken a step? Because it seems like he's considerably better over the last couple of weeks.
His speed, I find that he's been finding a lot of open ice.
He's been finding his space, and he's been doing it even when Suzuki is struggling.
Yeah.
right? And big. Before, it was very much a symbiotic relationship where, like, Suzuki's feeding, Caufield's finishing, and especially on the power play, it's Suzuki controlling everything. Now I'm seeing Cole Caufield create more of the chances, where he's the one who's carrying the puck, he's the one who's dishing at the right times, he's the one getting lost and finding those spaces, like shaking defenders. He had a couple of plays tonight where it looked like he was going to get the puck poked off his stick because, he's just a short little guy. And then the guy would poke the puck and Caufield maintained possession of the puck somehow. It's just his strength down low is starting to become exceptional. And I wonder if he's on the Marty St. Louis lower body workout plan.
Center of gravity, right?
Yeah, but like, you remember,
program?
Yeah, the tree trunk legs that Marty St. Louis has. I wonder if we're going to see Cole Caufield develop those. Because listen, they had video coming in the other night, and already he's looking a little thick. He's getting that big hockey butt at 21 years old.
Hey, man, it's scientifically proven a big hockey butt is great. Is like it propels you into greatness.
Because look at Sidney Crosby.
You could bounce a nickel off his butt. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely. So, and we all know Nick Suzuki, even though he doesn't look that big, he's quite thick himself. So, with Cole Caufield, what I think is really interesting is that his uptick in defensive awareness, or his work in the defensive zone, has led to how many penalties this year?
Yeah, a handful, right?
Yeah,
zero. He doesn't even have one.
He is by far the Lady Byng.
Right.
Like, winner.
He should win the Lady Byng this year.
Oh, 0 penalties.
Right.
He has 12 penalties, 6 minors in his entire career.
Right.
Including playoffs.
Yeah. So we're looking at a guy he's going to finish with 40-ish goals and maybe a penalty here and there. And it's funny because a lot of guys don't like the Lady Byng, but I think that's just a toxic masculinity thing. Like, lady. Okay. It's, by the way, she's a very, very important person in the history of hockey, but I think that's actually a great trophy. And ever since Stan Mikita, I believe he went from 1 year to leading the league in penalties to the next year. He said, my mom told me stop taking penalties. And then he won the Lady Byng. Ever since then, it's been cool to win the Lady Byng. So I'm thinking that'd be a cool little trophy for him.
Did Stan Mikita win the Lady Byng before or after he swung at that Soviet referee in the?
Oh yeah,
I'm just curious to know if they
were different times.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, Cole Caufield. I just want to say one thing. I have 2 nieces. They live in the New York area. They were at the game tonight. They went to the game because they love Cole Caufield and they love the Canadiens. So he's a delight to watch. The personality is the delight. Even like I said, that shot at the end when he was gassed and he fired it as hard as he could at the goalie.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff you want to see. It's better than dumping it in, I mean, it's just, I think if he's a consistent 40 goal scorer, they haven't had that in forever. And he is another piece that you're going to need to have in 2 or 3 years when you want to try to compete.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's not getting traded.
Not long term.
Okay, and we're Andrew Perry here. I'm assuming Rangers fan. I have to agree, it was a pretty sloppy performance from the Rangers. In the fact that the Montreal Canadiens traveled, they lost, or they struggled yesterday, and they're missing. They have 1.5 centers right now. That was a disappointing game for a team that is clearly better than the Montreal Canadiens. So we're giving the Habs a lot of credit here, but the Rangers still had a ton of chances somehow. But I really do think they'll be disappointed with that performance against one of the worst teams in the league.
They were terrible defensively, the Rangers.
They were sloppy.
Yeah, right. I mean,
that exit that led, or the missed puck that led to that was like a Joel Edmondson-esque clearance there from I forget who it was. It was anyways, that Suzuki took advantage of it. That was rough game for the Rangers. Although Shesterkin, I almost got that right. Quite good. And if it wasn't for him, I think the Canadiens had 5 or 6 high danger chances in the first few minutes, which was really nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, Caufield set the tone for that, right? Not many guys make Adam Fox look that brutal as what Caufield did to him right off the hop, right? And this game was essentially like a track meet, right? Both teams are getting chances each and every way. Great goaltending performances.
A track meet while everyone's trying to eat a sloppy Joe. Like
it was an incredibly sloppy game. Defense optional for both teams, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was highly entertaining, and it was a great game to have both my kids watching. It was. I'm glad they didn't watch like the Islanders game,
because then you would have turned off that. Were you all impressed by how many people? I know it's New York, right, and it's MSG, which I don't know if I'm the only one, but man, I love the ceiling. There's something like I respect wood. I'm a big respecter of wood, and man, that ceiling, it's just amazing to see. But I was surprised to see how many, like, it looked packed. And this is while the Giants are in the playoffs. That was a pretty nice showing from the Rangers fans.
Yeah, and it's a holiday weekend here too, and I think the early game makes it possible for parents to take their kids. I thought there were a lot of kids at the game, which is what the Habs do, right, around Super Bowl weekend. So, but yeah,
it's the earplug game that I call it. I love it, but man, woof, it drives me a little coco lamente. Look, we're gonna mention that because we did talk about it at the start of the show. But Luc D here is saying, "Is it Luc Dagenet? Are you my old buddy from? Did you go to Des Voyageurs in Ottawa in like 1988? If you're Luc Dagenet, I'll be really happy." But Samuel Montembeault, fantastic, and I'm starting to get the impression here that he wants the Habs to kind of give him a little bit of a lease on life, or maybe a new chance, because goalies tend to peak around 27, 28. He's not quite there. He had a bit of a downtick, but I think right now, if I had to trust a goalie, and I know Jake Allen's been playing well, obviously you're picking Montembeault and you're going to see what's available Jake Allen in the market, in the trade market, right? That's the logical approach.
You're going to get in so much trouble with the chat if you start trying to trade Jake Allen again. He's got years left on his deal. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Trizak's going to be like, come on, or Noel. Yeah, exactly. But I think if you're going to look at one of them, he's their goalie of the future, which I don't think you want to say that yet, but
I feel like Montembeault is better than he was last year, and Allen's worse than he was last year. That's my perception. I don't know what the figures say, but I get the sense that one's going in one direction and the other's going in the other direction.
Yeah, just based on ages, right?
Well, I also feel like Jake Allen is like next year's problem for Hughes. You know, like Armia is, I think, is next year's problem for Hughes, and maybe even Hoffman.
I think they buy him. I think they buy out Armia, but maybe the last stretch of games, yeah. I just don't see what, like, I think you want to cut loose there and give him a new chance.
Does Montembeault have is he under contract for next year?
Yeah, he signed a 2-year deal.
Okay, yes. So they're both under contract for next year.
I believe the chat will tell us, but I'm pretty sure he signed it before his 1 year kicked in.
Okay, yeah. So he's got at least another year.
I believe Montembeault signed next year for 1, and Jake Allen's got 2 years left.
Okay, so maybe you trade Montembeault and you get a better return, and you keep Jake Allen for Team Tank. That's another option. But as Connor mentioned here, he's only 26, and Jordan Binnington, if I remember correctly, at 25 was in the ECHL. So we really have to change our perception. And there's only so many spots in a goalie in an organization, right? You have 6 spots for goalies if you have an ECHL team. So it's, there will be good goalies that fall through the cracks, but I think guys like Montembeault and moving forward for the Canadiens, those are the kind of guys you want to go find on the market. I don't think you invest assets in getting a goalie. I don't think you invest in good draft picks. You find the guys that fell through the cracks, or maybe you take a chance in the 7th round. But ever since Antti Niemi won with the Blackhawks, I've kind of been off you need a franchise goaltender trained. I just don't see the value of it now in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, unless one falls into your lap, right? I think having watched the whole Carey Price era, watching Henrik Lundqvist concurrently, and neither of those teams winning Stanley Cups, or really even, I know they both made the finals, but even getting reasonably close to like,
and it wasn't their fault
winning one. It wasn't the goalie's fault.
But they papered over so many issues that was the fault, actually.
Yes, I think that's the biggest issue. It's like, I don't think it's a horrible idea necessarily if you have a great goaltender to pay that great goaltender like an elite player, but you have to be very aware as a manager to not fall into the trap of, okay, we just need to make the playoffs and the goalie will carry us through. He won't, because he can't score goals.
Right.
I mean, Patrick Roy in 86 was probably the last guy to actually do that.
I mean, you could argue 93, I guess.
No. I will never. 93 was such a good team. Like, I mean,
they were a great team.
Like 23. That was such a good team. 1993, the Habs were good. I refuse to accept that was Patrick Roy's luck. Absolutely not. No deal.
Well, I mean, he still won the Conn Smythe for a reason, right? But...
and he still maintained an under 2 goals against average.
They won like 10 straight playoff overtime games, right?
And he kept. I think Wayne Gretzky had like 2 goals in the first game, and that was that. So, but as actually Daniel Clark Bouchard mentions here, Jacob Dobesh, which we mentioned yesterday, but Andrew cut me out of the show.
Yeah, I did it on purpose.
Jacob Dobesh is by far their best prospect, because we were talking about those Joe Verbeek at one point, and Dach, who's playing backup for Frolunda right now. And obviously Caden Primo, well, that's another thing. They probably should see what he can do now that he's in the NHL. But out of the three big defensemen, because they're literally like goalies, they're large goalies. Jacob Dobish, go check out his numbers with Ohio State. He lost his first game recently since December 2nd or something like that. His last 10 stretch of games, it's been 950, 970, 970. And it's not like, the Buckeyes are the most dominant team in the NCAA. So Jacob Dobish, and he's one of those guys that loves to win. He's got like that Patrick Roy almost jerkiness about him, which I'm expressing myself poorly, but it's that he's like, I want to be the best always. So exactly. Yeah. So Jacob Dobish would be an interesting guy that, to give a bit of a trial to. But Caden Primo, I want to see him play. Is that not reasonable?
Right.
Yeah.
Would you not have played him tonight, Andrew?
What's that? Sorry.
Would you have not played Caden Primo tonight?
No, I wouldn't have. No. After watching Caden Primo last year in the NHL, I want him to show a lot better numbers than he's shown so far in the AHL this year before he gets an NHL game. I don't know. I think we've seen Caden Primo's best and worst in the last year.
The playoffs last year, he was right. That was one of the best goalie performances. Like the Laval Rockets should have never made it to the finals. Like that was ridiculous.
No, Mark, it was because they had so many francophone players. That's why.
And Jean-Sébastien D will have a nice little conversation about that. But yeah, their best player, obviously an American. Listen, and I love the idea of as many francophones as possible right there. But I don't see. It's just kind of funny because when I grew up, it was almost a joke. Is that you go to Quebec for the goalies? Really feels like who's the last French Canadian? Well, I guess Montembeault would be it. But for a point, it was Luongo and Crawford. So kind of lost the. It's kind of weird to look back at it because that was what Quebec did. It was nothing but goalies, and it was Patrick Roy, in my opinion, just inspired an entire generation. I don't know if they've had that guy to.
I don't think that's an opinion, Mark. That's just factual.
Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, chocolate's very good, and gold has good value.
But I think if you're going to dedicate your season to progress and to development, I think you do have to see Caden Primo.
Yes,
you have to see it so you can evaluate it, so you know what you're going to do. Are you going to finally cut bait with him? Are you going to keep him? Are you going to move one of these other guys out? This is the time to do it. And yeah, I would have played him tonight. It might have made a difference in the outcome of the game, but then that would have benefited the Canadiens too. So I think you give him a shot and you see what happens. And I guess he's been injured, right? He got hurt and he's been out for a while, and he's just gradually coming back now, right, at the AHL level. Yeah, so maybe that was the reason.
And he hasn't found consistency in the. Yeah. But I will say this. Oh, and they're reminding me. I forgot about Marc-André Fleury, which somehow, and also it's not just a Quebec thing, right? It's a Canadian thing for goalies in general. I actually think, not to get too intense, it's a socioeconomic thing as well. First of all, so many parents can't afford hockey for the kids, and if you're going to be a goalie, that man, beaucoup bucks to play goalie, and every single year. So you hope your kids become like a defenseman or something, or maybe, or an equipment manager or something like that.
I hope your kids become Connor Bedard.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. Okay. So I agree with Andrew there, just in the sense that Caden Primo, and he'll be frustrated right now, and I know why. I don't know if this ever came out, but Caden Primo was the youngest player ever signed out of the NCAA. Okay. So he was 19 when he signed away from Northwestern, and their coach at the time told me,
Northeastern.
Yes. Oof, geez, there's some people that'd be very upset with me right now.
Exactly.
Their coach, who I'm trying to think, he's now the director of the whole sports program. But anyways, Marc Bergevin told him, next year, Caden, if you sign now, you're gonna be our backup, and the year after that, you'll be our starter. This is what he essentially promised the kid, to get him to sign early to come over. So this kid came into Montreal thinking, hey, I'm the next big thing, and they really. They convinced me to do this, to get rid of my college career early, to not develop fully. And he kind of got that yanked out underneath from, the rug got yanked out. Now, I am not saying he deserved it, but that's what he was told coming into the NHL. So when I saw him last year, I went to a Laval practice, and he was out there just taking shots 20 minutes after. And I kind of asked him about that. I'm like, are you kind of upset about the whole, how did that go? And he said, hey, listen, at this point, because that's hockey player for yes. He's like, I just want to prove to them that I can do what I
right.
was told I could do. So I'm with Andrew here, smarter Andrew. They have to give Caden Primo a chance, because if not, where are you going with him at this point?
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect year to do it. And tonight would have been the perfect night, and we'll see. I don't know how injured Jake Allen is. I guess he's on the mend like the rest of them. What's the story with the center? Is he skating?
Jake Evans?
No, Monahan. Is he actually skating again? But no practice, right?
I should
I
know
believe
this.
he's been skating. He's supposed to be back in about a week.
Okay.
I believe he skated with a powder blue. I believe. Here,
right,
hold
okay.
on.
And they said on the broadcast that Jake Evans' injury was not as bad as it looked. Did you guys hear that as well?
I was listening to Pierre Hood because I can't not listen to Pierre Hood on RDS when they have the games. I probably missed that one.
Yeah. I don't have that option.
I was listening to my kids saying, "Play fire truck, please, Dad. You're the garbage truck now. Do this, do that." So
I think I heard that.
I missed that.
I think I heard that twice.
I'm
so
seeing Eric Engels tweet out here on January 5th, seeing Monahan skate. Now we all know it's not a Peter Forsberg situation, but foot injuries are pretty sketchy, right? So that's one of those that you never know about. But
he needs to come back, play one game, and then out.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what I told Andrew yesterday.
He needs to end the game conscious and alert.
Or
that's
not even. Get him to score on the power play and pull him. Like, that's it. Yeah. Like,
I'd like to see him get a stretch of like 5 to 8 games with Slavkovsky. That's all I want to see. Is just him and Slav seem to have some chemistry. I want to see if he can bring something out of Slavkovsky, and if not, then we can move on and get the trade done and over with, because I'm sure that there's a bunch of teams salivating at the idea of Monahan just based on how well he was playing so far this year and the rarity of centers at the trade deadline.
You got Bo Horvat, and then that's about it, because I know Taves' thing maybe Max Domi, but Max Domi might have that appeal because for some reason GMs love that kind of type of player. But Monahan, in terms of his two-way, there's no other player like him in the
and nobody's going to bite on Dvorak.
You know what? I actually have heard there's been some interest because there's that face-off obsession, and he before he came to Montreal, he was good defensively. Il a manqué le métro since then. Like, he hasn't been great defensively since then. But yes, I heard there's actually been a couple nibbles about Dvorak. If out of that group of, let's say, underwhelming veteran players, he still has value, in my opinion.
I think they could boost his value higher than what it currently is. It just didn't work out. I feel like that's the one mistake so far that Kent Hughes has made, is I think that if they would have traded Christian Dvorak this summer, they would have gotten more for him than at any point in the remainder of that contract.
And I remember saying, no, he went on a huge heater. You want to see what he can do? But that was,
Because he was one of those guys that after St. Louis took over, he was injured at the start, I believe, and then he came into the lineup.
Started just flying there.
Yeah, immediately the production was like, oh, okay, back to what he was doing in Arizona.
It was normalization, Yeah,
exactly. And this year it just hasn't worked out that way, and it's unfortunate, because I feel like now, like, most teams are probably looking at him and saying, like, yeah, he's a guy. He fills a roster spot.
But you don't
is he
look
a guy
at him
that
as
takes
a
us
top
over the
two.
edge?
You look at him as a really good third center.
I don't even think he's a really good third.
Or a really good fourth, if you're being honest, in a playoff roster. Yeah. We have a really good question here from a Rock Smasher. And we'll give this to Andrew with the crown molding. Do you claim Nedeljkovic off waivers? So he's the goalie that was really good for the Canes, but I think it was the Canes were really good for him. Young guy, Detroit, terrible numbers, but right now, do you even sniff at a goalie, or do you not worry about that?
He's got term left, right? Is he a UF? I think he's
couple years, right?
Yeah, and
I researched this so well.
He's not cheap, so no. My vote is no, unless they see something spectacular about him. I mean,
he's got okay, so it's a 2-year. So basically, oh no, hold on, let's see here. Oh no, okay, it's his last.
Okay, so
yeah, but he's going to be a UFA, right? So there's not much control there, not much value. I think he was good because Carolina made him look good.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the thing about Hughes and Gordon is you don't know who they like and who they don't like, and who they know and who they don't know, right? And who they have an inside pipe to and who they don't. So, that's kind of the interesting thing about this season, right? It's like you kind of knew where Bergevin was going to go hunting for stuff, and you don't really know where these guys are doing that yet.
I know he's the busiest GM in the league, so but we heard that about Marc Bergevin.
Bergevin as well, yeah. Always working the
well.
phones, Marc Bergevin, and his Rolodex, his
Exactly.
big Rolodex.
Okay.
That was the big thing back when he was hired. I'll
We
say
need to
one
wrap
thing
up, but I
about-
want someone to clip you saying you're the garbage truck of Game Over, because that's amazing. That's just fantastic. Garbage truck, man. I always wanted to be a garbage. You know what? They make good money as well. Hard work, but good money. Yeah.
They're an essential service.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, before we get going, I'm going to let Andrew do the goodbyes and all that, but I want to thank everyone in the chat. That's like, I missed all of you so much, and it's really cool that you came back after a little bit of a technical issue there, but thanks to everyone in the chat, because we're so lucky that you'll take time to come out and look at us and deal with these faces here that you have to deal with. So merci
Faces
beaucoup.
for radio.
Yeah, exactly. Merci beaucoup. Hey, I'm a Kennedy, right? So you know what that means? It's a big head. On our coat of arms, it's 3 guys with masks. So that's just to tell you exactly, it's the good old ugly heads of Kilkenny. So shout out to everyone in the chat. Really, really much love to everyone giving us the time of day. It's really appreciated.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining
guys.
us here today. Thanks especially to Andrew Cohen for joining us. Absolutely.
having me.
Andrew yesterday he's saying he's going to be smarter than us. I'm like, well, yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's smarter than you guys.
Debatable.
Yeah.
Right, we'll be
There's
back.
2 people that have ever said that, Andrew and my mom. Okay, and I know my mom was lying about it, so I'm just saying.
All right, we'll be back on Tuesday for another edition of Game Over Montreal. It's fun to be back live again. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Ring the bell to get all the special notifications that there's a new video out, all that stuff. Subscribe to the podcast. Follow everyone on Twitter. Their stuff's in the description, whether you're listening on the podcast or on YouTube. We love you very much. The Montreal Canadiens won tonight, but the tank is still on because Vancouver won too, so they didn't move anywhere in the standings. All right, everyone. We'll see you then.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.